Hi, my name's Brian Freeze with Peak Cycling Studio. Today we're going to talk about the zones we use with the power levels and durations to create all the workouts that we use in the studio. First, neuromuscular power. Second, anaerobic capacity, VO2 max, threshold or FTP, tempo, endurance, and active recovery. Neuromuscular power is for very short bursts of energy for sprinting or mountain bikers to get over an obstacle. They're 30 seconds or less at 150% of FTP or more. So very short. Next is anaerobic capacity is 121% to 150% and 30 seconds to 3 minutes. VO2 max is 106% to 120% and 3 to 8 minutes. Threshold or FTP you should be able to do for 60 minutes, but a minimum of 8 to 10 minutes. Tempo is 76 to 92%, and 45 minutes to top level pro can do 8 hours. Endurance that we don't do a lot of in the studio is 56 to 75, 3 hours minimum, 5 hours in that area, and then some people do 24-hour races. Active recovery you can do for a super long time, 55% or less. So when we do neuromuscular power intervals in the studio, we're either doing microbursts mainly because we don't do a lot of sprinting on the trainers. So we're doing usually 15 to 20 seconds on, 15 to 20 seconds off at 150%. So just that neuromuscular hit. Next, anaerobic capacity is 30 seconds to 3 minutes. Most people do a minute to 90 seconds. So a minute to a minute and a half. And they need to be a minimum of 100, and we usually do 125 to 150. VO2 max is 106 to 120. And most people do 3 to 5 minutes, and that's what we do in the studio, 3 to 5 minute intervals. Threshold, depending on where we are in training threshold, we usually start out with 8 to 10 minutes and work our way up to 12. Sometimes we work more than that, but usually what we do is we add intervals because it's hard to concentrate more than 10 to 12 minutes. So we do 10 to 12 minutes and then we have a little recovery interval. Tempo, you should be able to do at least 45 minutes, and that's 76 to 92% of threshold. We start with 20-minute intervals. If you can't do a 20-minute interval, start with 10, work to 12, work to 15, work to 20, and then do at least 2x20s. We do a lot of 3x20 workouts. And then endurance, like I said, we don't really use a lot in the studio. We save that for outside. Everybody really needs to be doing 3 to 5 hours of endurance riding. And if you're doing Leadville or any really long events, you should do more. I've got a lot of people that do Leadville and other long races, stage races, and I always shoot between 6 to 8 hours depending on what the duration of their event is. Also with tempo, if you're going to do a 6 to 7 hour race, I would suggest doing 4x20s, maybe even 5x20s. And like I've said, we always do something I call micro progression in the studio. When we start doing 3x20 tempo workouts, we'll start at the bottom at 76%. And then each week we'll progress a little bit all the way up until we get to sweet spot. And then we'll even keep going. We keep doing those 3x20 intervals all the way up to 92%. And that's a lot a lot of work, but if you slowly progress, you can get there. Most people's mistake is they hop on the bike, and the first thing they want to do is, let's do some sweet spot intervals, and they try to do 3x20s at 90%. You're probably not going to be able to do those. But if you start at tempo at 76% and you work your way up all the way to sweet spot, you'll find that doing the sweet spot intervals is a lot more manageable. Same with threshold. You know, when we start doing threshold, we're going to start with 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and then we're going to work our way up. You know, we're going to start in the, usually 96% is where we start, and we'll work all the way up to that 106%. And usually cap them at 10 to 12 minutes, but we might do 5 intervals with 3 minutes of endurance riding in between. VO2 max, kind of the same thing. We're probably going to do a 3-minute interval with 3-minute rest to start out with. We're going to start out at 106, and we're going to slowly progress our way up all the way to 120%. Again, a lot of people might try to start with 5 minutes of VO2, and they might try to start out at 115 to 120% and then get discouraged because they can't do it. So we always like to start at the bottom of the intensity and then work our way up slowly over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. And that's generally the amount of time we'll stay working in a zone is 4 to 6 weeks, and then we'll move on to something else. So, we always start with tempo, build our way up to tempo, sweet spot, range, and then get in the upper level training, which actually we're doing right now in the studio. We're doing a lot of anaerobic capacity. So intervals that are in that, we're really doing them at 140, 150% right now for a minute, 40 seconds. We're doing some functional reserve capacity intervals that are 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And we do 6 of those, and then we have a short recovery for about 3 minutes at endurance, and then we do another set, and then we even do some sweet spot work. 20 minutes at 91% is what we're doing now. But if you stick with these intensities and these durations, you'll get the most out of your training. If you have any questions, let me know. Always happy to answer them. See you next time.